is our trainee on the study. And Laura's just recording if that's okay. So the purpose of this meeting is sort of a bit of a revision kickoff for opening up other UK sites. So also on the line, we've got Laura Whitty, who's our research administrator with the Experimental Arthritis Treatment Centre for Children, who's a good contact person for the study. And we've got Becky Taylor and Charlotte Heath from the Alderhay Research and Development team. And then our great friends Marco and Elisa from PRINTO, who have joined us as well. I think we were going to record the session. We've had a few apologies from other people, so it might be quite a small group today. So I don't think it will take too long. And please stop me and ask questions as you go along. Hannah's been recruiting and seeing quite a lot of patients in Liverpool, so I'll hand over to her for some of the top tips about seeing the patients for patient visits. But I'll just see if I can share my screen. We'll send the slides around to everybody as well. Okay. Can you all see my screen? I can't see you now.
Yes,
but
yes. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much for everyone for joining us. So as we mentioned before, this is we were the winners of the first ever PRINTO Research Award. We've had a lot of delays in opening due to a number of different reasons, including COVID, Brexit and all sorts of issues, but we are finally opening up across the world. So as well as multiple sites in the UK, we are currently opening around 30 other centres with a breadth of European and international studies as well. So the Alderhay part of the study, Alderhay is a sponsor for UK sites, but not for non-UK sites. So our study is it's a cross-cultural adaptation and validation of something called the LoSQI measure. And it's a study that's been set up with the Scleroderma Working Party, but with input from CARA, who are the North American paediatric rheumatology group as well. So in this study, juvenile scleroderma can be localized and systemic, but we're looking purely at localized scleroderma here. And we know that there's several studies that have measured health-related quality of life in localized scleroderma, and the CDL-QI, which is the trouble with skin questionnaire, here is the most commonly used, but it only captures impacts of health-related quality of life on related to skin, and doesn't measure some of those other concepts that are unique to localized scleroderma. So our colleagues in the US have developed a measure called the LoSQI. So it's a disease-specific tool, and it was developed in partnership with patients and families. And it's got 21 items and also an optional 11-item medication subscale. And this is some of the items within the LoSQI. So you can see it asks about symptoms within skin, about impact on activity, psychological impact, but also about things that are related to having scleroderma, such as bloods and taking medicines. So the first part of the study was the cross-cultural adaptation, and this has been completed in the UK. So we have made a few minor changes from the sort of American English version to the UK British version. So the bit that we need your help with is the work stream 2. So and within this, we're looking at validating the LoSQI, but we're against other physician and patient reported outcome measures. Oh, can I just get people to mute if that's okay? Thank you. So we're looking for a minimum of 100 patients, but actually the more we get, the better, because there's some other parts of the study, the secondary outcomes, that will be benefit from having additional patients in there. So it's a prospective cohort, so it's patients from 0 to 4 months, so 2 visits, and there's a window of opportunity there with a couple of months either side, so you can be between 2 and 6 months for your second visit, so that should hopefully fit with normal clinic visits for these. The physician measured outcomes that we collect, one's the LoSQAT, which is a skin score, which many of you probably use in the clinic already. And we have got some training sessions on that from Cassie Torrick. If that's helpful, we can share. The physician's global assessment of disease activity and damage on a visual analogue, which we'll be used to. The physician's reported change in disease activity and overall health. This is a very quick question to answer. And then the total morbidity score, which I'll come back to. And then there's questionnaires for patients as well. So there's the LoSQI itself, the CHAC, which we're probably all familiar with, some promise measures, some VASs, and the Children's Dermatology Life Quality Index as well. We've got a sort of tick list that will be shared by PRINTO that sort of says what you need to do at each visit that Shabnam, who's one of our academic fellows, and Hannah have put together. So just makes it nice and clear then what you need to do at each visit. You don't need to worry about work stream 1 because that's been completed. So the LoSQI score, I know that Emily's familiar with. Eslam, do you use this in clinic as well? I'm sorry, I can't see the screen, people on it. But it's a tool that doesn't take that long to do once you get used to it, and we can provide, as I said, extra training for that. It measures the activity and the damage related to the skin. So in the activity, you're looking at whether there's any new or enlarging lesions, whether there's any erythema, and what the skin thickness is at the edge of the lesion. And then for damage, we're looking at dermal atrophy, subcutaneous atrophy, and dyspigmentation. And this is what the score looks like. So you've got the activity bit on this side and the damage on there. It split up into anatomical areas with the head, neck, trunk, and then your right extremities and your left extremities. And you only need to score the areas that are affected. And then Suzanne Lee in the US has been developing a total morbidity score. So the rationale for this score is that skin measures don't fully assess some of the disease morbidity. And we know that quite a lot of patients with localized scleroderma will have extracutaneous manifestations that are quite commonly not well recorded in notes or in studies. So the aim of this measure is to score the full range of localized scleroderma morbidity and be able to track specific extracutaneous manifestations over time. It's split into modules, so MSK, growth differences, head and neurological, and other organ. And although the form looks quite long, often you're not filling in many of those because the children don't have any issues in those areas. And then the patient-reported outcome measures, we've got some of the promise ones, and these will be supplied in the packs. So there's 6 promise measures that seven that we're looking at within the study. So Hannah, I'll hand over to you just to talk about top tips.
Thank you, Claire. So I think we just put this slide in just to give people an idea of practical aspects of the study. And I think essentially it's very straightforward, but there is a lot of forms. So I think it's just really helpful to have all your forms together and organised before the clinic visit. And there is a checklist, which is really, really helpful. We did notice that some patients tend to only complete one side of the questionnaire. So it's just worth checking at the time that they've not missed any boxes, so you're not chasing it later. And you can input it directly into the database. So if you wanted to log patients on, for example, and get them to put it straight in or to input your own data directly, then that is possible in clinic, just to save an extra step of transferring the paper onto the online database. I think in terms of patients, it's just worth making sure that they know that the forms are probably going to take around 20 minutes to fill, so there's quite a bit of paper. But patients did quite like the LoSQI. I think they were talking about it a lot, generated a lot of conversation about their thoughts about the scleroderma. So hopefully it will be interesting and bring out more in the consultation as well. And just to note that some of the measures you might already be collecting separately, like the chat, so just to make sure that you're not asking them to do it twice. And then Claire's already mentioned about the physician-reported outcome measures, and some of them, like the LoSQI, I think people are already doing in part of clinical practice, so it shouldn't take much extra clinic time to do the extra little bits for this study. And then in terms of the database, it puts together some guidelines, but I think within the UK ethics, it's just helpful to know that you can put their full name and date of birth onto the database because it is fully encrypted, and I know that we all worry about accidentally breaching data protection and so on, but within the ethics you can do that, and it doesn't leave sort of your end of the database, it doesn't go back anywhere else. So I think those are the main things, but we've kind of summarised it all in a document anyway, so hopefully it'll be fairly straightforward to deliver, I think.
Thanks, Hannah. Oh, my slides have now frozen. Here we go. So in terms of contacts, so you can contact me directly via email. Again, Laura has been with us at the beginning of the study, so she's a great person to contact. If there's a particular questions about the database or data entry, then Elisa and Marco via Printo are great people to contact. And then if it's about the UK setup, then Charlotte and Becky will be good people to contact from the Alder Hey team. I'll stop sharing there and we'll go to any questions, but just to say thank you to everybody that's been involved with the study to date. Ooh, I've now lost my other screen. Well, 1 second, so I can get more back. There we go. I noticed there was question in the chat. I'm sorry, I've just lost my my Zoom. Okay. Sorry, I'm having issues getting my Zoom back up.
The question was from Becky, Claire. It says, please can we check the recruitment totals? Is 100? Are you there, Becky?
Yeah, I saw 100 in the presentation. Then I've got 200 on Edge, but I've got 22 in an email. So what's our UK total?
Yeah, so
we're aiming for.
Yeah, we haven't got a specific because it's international competitive recruitment. We haven't got a specific number. Now, the problem was that some of that includes work stream 1, so we've already recruited to that. So that bit's sort of been completed. So we're looking for. We may be that internationally, if there's we've got funding for the first 100 patients for each visit, but it might be that the international community, there's been a lot of enthusiasm for this study. They may want to continue to recruit patients beyond that number, but without any per patient per visit costs. And some of the UK sites might decide to do the same as well. So we've only got, for example, it's a rare condition. So at Alder Hey, we've probably got about 24 patients or so, and some of those are below the age of 8, so won't be recruited. So you need to be 8 to 18. That's what we're looking there. I'm not quite sure exactly how many numbers we'll get nationally. So we had to put a number on. It's difficulty, isn't it, with these studies where you don't have a specific power calculation that you need that IRAS to put a number. And
I know we have to put numbers on Edge, otherwise it shouts at you and then marks you as 100% recruited at all time and then tries to shut your study. So
that's it. So we thought we'd start off with a 22 and then sort of reevaluate that. We thought that was probably the safest option. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, I'm going to change the whole of Edge to 22 rather than 200 for the UK, even though it's so it just doesn't shout at us.
Yep, that's absolutely.
Looks a bit more achievable as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
No problems. And I've no idea why I still can't get my my Zoom up. I can hear you fine, but I've just got a black screen here and I can see it at the bottom of the screen, and when I click on it, it goes away again. So apologies for that. Nobody can see my screen anymore. Is that right?
No. We can just see you.
You can just see me. Okay, that's fine. So Marco and Elisa, did you want to run through the database for data entry? Or did you want to just see if there are any questions for them?
Yes, hi everybody. I'm Marco, and Claire, if you agree, I would like to present just a very few slides, giving a very quick overview on the translation process and the current status of the project.
Perfect, yeah.
It will take just a few seconds. So I'm sharing my screen. Okay, can you see the slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm just giving a picture of the translation process, but as Claire pointed out, for the UK version of the LoSQI questionnaire, the team in Alder Hey performed the first round of revision of the American English version of the questionnaire, and so you will not have you will not take part directly in this translation and adaptation phase. This process is especially will be performed for the non-UK sites who have to translate the questionnaire into their native, into their languages. And for your information, we have 2 work streams for this project. In the first work stream, and just a second. Okay, we have to translate 2 independent translators that work independently to have 2 for translations. Then these 2 separate translations have been will be unified to have a first unified translation. We have decided to have this separation of translator just to have 2 different point of view in terms of lexical choices and the meaning. Then the first therefore the merge of these 2 different back and forward translation into a unified translation. Then it's then back translated into English by 1 independent back translators. And of course, the back translator must not have taken part in the previous part of the project. And the primary objective of this step is to check that the meaning of the items is fulfills the rationale of the original questionnaire. We have then after this revision of the backward translation is then reviewed by the Cara study team, and the team will check the correspondence with the original text, the original source text, and the purpose of this meeting is to reach a consensus and release the second unified translation of the question in each national language. Before using the second unified translation of LoSQI in the study, this version is given from 8 to 12 subjects using a probe technique to ensure that the target population understands this version of the questionnaire, and half professional, which is essentially the PI, will administer the questionnaire in a probe to the probe subjects, asking to consider all the question and all the items of the question, and to explore the understanding of the child of each independent and singular individual item. Of course, the administrator will use probes to evaluate also different components of the LoSQI, including the instruction, the questions, the response options, but also the reference period and the other aspects of the questionnaire and the subscale of the questionnaire. So the translation team who have worked during the first during this procedure of probe technique will meet and create the final unified translation of the LoSQI. This questionnaire will be the one that will be administered and validated in a sample size population of 100 subjects. As Claire pointed out some minutes ago, we have a sample size of 100 subjects, and the translated LoSQI will be administered at 2 time points, at baseline and then at month 4, plus or minus 2 months. The data collection in workstream 2 will occur online, and the web system, the web platform will be is managed by PRINTO, and maybe some of you are already familiar with the PRINTO registry. It's the platform where you have all the projects that we are implementing and developing within our network. Just another information from an administrative point of view for UK sites, as Claire pointed out, ALDERA is both the sponsor and the home institution of the chief investigator. PRESS, the Pediatric Rheumatology European Society, is the funder. PRINTO is the scientific strategic partner and academic CRO. And at the moment, the ethics approval, of course, for UK is in place. And of course, I would like to remind you of the importance of having a research program project agreement in place with all the sites. The same is applicable also for for non-UK sites. There is a difference. In this case, PRINTO and the Istituto Giannina Gaslini is the leading site for EC submission, and Press is funder and also the sponsor of the project. At the moment, we have already 2 sites who have approved the study, which are Florence and Zagreb, and at the moment we are working with the sites and with the PI to have the study approved locally by all the sites, and we are expecting to open as soon as possible as many sites as possible by the end of this year. For any problems or if you need any help, please contact us, especially for any problems you may have with the data entry or just any doubt you'd like to clarify, but also, for example, for any administrative issue that you may incur during the process of enrollment. I will give you the microphone to Elisa, who will present you very quickly the web system, and just to give you some practical tips for the entry of your first patients. Of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask now or maybe also via email in the next few days.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Claire, and thank you, Marco. I will show you very briefly how data entry is performed, and it won't take long, I promise. So, to enter the web system, we will provide you with a direct link that will take you to the login page. You can see here we are in a test environment, and it looks almost exactly like the real registry. You may have noticed we have a 2-step password. The first one is your personal one, and as Marco said, we strongly encourage all the people in your team to apply for PRINTO membership in order to have personal credentials and to link the information entered with a single investigator. And then you have a center password, which will be common to the whole staff in a center. And it's really important since it allows the encryption of personal data of the patients. Having said that, you are now in what we call the common area for the registry, which, as you can see, hosts all the projects that are activated in your center among the PRINTO initiatives. You are able to see both the number, so the subject ID assigned to your patients, and the full name and surname if your local requirements allow. As coordinating center, we will see only the subject ID of your patient, and we'll refer, for example, if we have a question, we will refer only to this code. The code is made up by a country code and a number which identifies your single center. In case you want to enroll a new patient, you just click on New Subjects in order to enter the personal information of the subject. Again, if it is allowed from your ethical committee, you can use full name and surname, or just initials, or even, for example, a code that is convenient for you. So I don't know, Manchester 1, or anything that is good for you. Again, the birth date is the information you are required to put in the system, mainly to avoid the duplication of patients. As coordinating center, we will see an estimation of the age of the patient calculated based on the date. So the private information of the patient stay private. You are also required to put the disease onset, diagnosis date, and the first visit at your center. In case you have it, you can identify your patient also using, for example, the tax code for Italy or the social security number, which is an extra way to avoid the duplication of patients. For example, in case, I don't know, the family moved from one pediatric center to the other and changed seat. Now you have linked the progressive code for your patient to his identity. The following step is to enroll the patient in the specific study. So as date of inclusion, we can put today. We are required to confirm the inclusion criteria, so an age from 8 to 18, and a good understanding of the native language above 8-year level. The exclusion criteria, of course, for the purpose of the study, is any element that can complicate the understanding of text. The following information is the confirmation of the consent given by the family. Of course, you are not required to upload anything, just to report the answers given by the family in the paper form that you are keeping and that should remain at your center and not be shared. At this step, we have the patient and we have the enrollment in the study. So we can proceed with entering a new visit. We can choose again today. And the system, since the patient is new, automatically suggests you an N0, so the first visit for the study. And in this moment, we can access the visit forms and start the data entry. Now, we can add some information such as subject ethnicity and of course the primary language. In this case, British English. Here we can specify with more detail the patient diagnosis. And in case you need to specify any surgery in the history of the patient, you can do so. As you can see, it is not a mandatory information. But sorry, I realized I didn't give you an overview of the page, which, as you can see, is divided into sections. So we have information on therapy. There's the possibility to enter safety information in case any adverse event as presented. And then the forms are divided into physician evaluation and the patient reported outcomes. The LoSQI, of course, is, you can see it here among the mandatory forms, since it is, of course, the center of the project. And in case you are able to complete also the other questionnaires, of course, it's strongly encouraged in order to compare the results. I will just show you briefly the drug therapy section because it's a little bit, it can be a little bit tricky. and will not take more time with the questionnaires. You have, first of all, a past medication section, which asks you to report if any of the listed drugs have been taken in the past or even are currently taken or not. You may also indicate, for example, not known, in case it is correct. And you can add any specific information you deem appropriate. In case you had an adverse event related to the drugs indicated above, for example, we have put methotrexate, we can indicate as an adverse event weight gain, and you are required to specify in the free text box which was the drug related to the event. The difference between these two forms I wanted just to show you is that, well, now you are required to just enter age and weight of your patient very briefly. And then in this section, we are interested in the details of drugs and medication taken after study enrollment. So this is the main difference between the two forms. One also takes into account the past therapy, while here we just want the current medication. And just to show you how it is done, you can select from the list. Methotrexate was indicated as taken in the past or current, and we can confirm it in this way. So it was started 1 year ago, it is ongoing. And you can specify the frequency, dose, and route. When the page is completed, you can save it, confirming the information. In order just to show you how a completed patient look like, we can select the list of patients in the study. And you can see here, this patient has both visits. All forms become marked in green when you completed them. And what can be, I think, useful also while reviewing your patient is that you have an output that is visible for you, reporting the results and the scores for your patient. So you have here all the scores at this specific visit. Again, just to show you just the last thing, you will see here that's mainly for those who are not familiar with our systems. You have a notification for tickets. Tickets is the system by which we communicate with centers if we have queries. And it's quite, it's very secure because it stays within the system. And it's also quite convenient, I think, for investigators, since it is directly linked to your patients. So you don't have to look everywhere around. You just have one patient with one questions within. So I will stop sharing, but of course, in case you have questions now or at any point in the future, we are here and really happy to help.
Thanks so much, Elisa. I don't know if Eslam, Emily, or Sam have got any of the PRINTO studies open at the moment. We're also open to the JIA PRINTO. So I think that the key things are is that you we had a bit of confusion. We opened LoSQI because patients get allocated numbers not based on the study, but your recruitment to all the PRINTO studies. But once you get used to the website, it's actually really simple to use, and it's very, we've been just looking at some of the JI PRINTO queries with our research nurses, and it's been really easy to answer and get queries back and to know what you've completed and what you haven't. Hannah, is there any comments from your point of view? Because I know you've done a lot of data entry and recruitment.
Yeah, no, I think it is very easy to use once you get the hang of it. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah, I agree.
Is anyone any questions at all?
Yes, my only other tip was with the passwords. We kept getting locked out, didn't we? Because there's 2 different passwords. So your computer remembers the password. So just being careful when you put your passwords in, that's probably why you get locked out, because you need 2 separate ones.
Yes, centre password and a investigator password. That's a good tip, Hannah. So I think we've found it hasn't taken us that long to see patients within the clinic setting. The study has got an NHR portfolio adoption. So, but whether, I know it's very difficult at the moment to get nurse support via that route at your centres, but you may be able to get some nurse support. We had an academic fellow who was helping us to start with the site files and recruitment and screening logs and things. But I think you're not looking at recruiting a lot of patients. Hopefully it won't be too onerous, and it is only 2 visits per patient with a window. So although we said 4 months, it's up to 2 months to 6 months. So we think most patients get seen at least 6 monthly with localized scleroderma. So there is a window there to recruit into that. Is there any questions at all? Eslam, I noticed you talked about how long it takes for R&D approval. I'm aware that post-COVID we've got a lot of backlogs everywhere, and we've had a lot of change with research staff at Alderhay as well. So it's really nice that Becky and Charlotte are here with us today. So Becky and Charlotte, have the packs gone out to all the individual sites as yet? Sam's saying no.
They have, yeah, sent them out.
Okay.
I sent a couple of emails out, I think there's 2 more requesting edge access.
Okay, I think if there's any, Sam, you're saying you haven't received anything at Nottingham, is that right?
Yes, Claire, I emailed you, and then after that we had some communication back. Yes, this is pending, it will be sent. But I've emailed because I wonder whether our research nurses can join today, but I have absolutely heard nothing.
Okay. Sam, who's the best person to send the packs to? Is it best to send directly to yourself for the time being?
No, Helen Novara and Brogan West is involved at the moment. So all of them are on the email thread, which I sent to you.
Yeah. Okay, we can sort that out. And I think there's been a few queries, Laura, from Manchester about versions and things. So Laura's just running through that because we've had quite a long time in setup. I think, Laura, you're just looking at some of the queries that have come back from Manchester, is that right?
Yeah, obviously there was quite a lot of queries that came back from Manchester, and I'm aware there's a clinic in December, so I'm trying to turn that around in the next week, really, hopefully, and I think that'll help with what's going out to all of the different centres, because we'll have a list. I should be able to produce a list and an audit trail for any changes that have happened. So hopefully it will be clearer at that point, and I'll share that with Charlotte so that we're on the same page, and perhaps just refresh the site file to include that.
Yeah, I was going to ask Hannah, I'm not sure quite where we're up to with it in Manchester.
Yeah, we've had a lot of active emails, but there's just, I think there's just a few current versions that have been changed that we just need to finalise.
Okay, we can have a chat about that.
Yeah, but we can chat, yeah.
So Eslam, I've just noticed that you said you're limited by the number we can open per year. Is that as in per study? Okay. And I don't know. I thought we had a name, Laura, from somebody from the Birmingham site. But Eslam, maybe you could just drop me an email to make sure we've got the right people.
Yeah, if they're in the email trail, I'll make sure that it goes to all of you.
Excellent. And I think we appreciate it's really difficult times to get anything open with R&D at the moment. So please, if there's anything we can do to help, give us a shout, and we really appreciate the interest that you've all shown in the study. It'd be really good to get some more recruitment from the UK. We found patients were really keen to be part of the study. Some of the issues that we had actually is it was particularly key in pre-testing for the LoSQI unified version, was that patients who we didn't realise had difficulties with their reading age, it came up during the sort of consent process, and we need to be 8 and above to understand the LoSQI and to be able to sort of do the validation phase. So that's where you might run into a few problems. So we haven't specifically tested, but during consent it's just making sure that the patients haven't got any marked learning difficulties they hadn't quite picked up on. Hannah, we had that a few times, didn't we?
Yeah, a couple of surprises, I think.
Yeah.
It's informative to the team. Yeah.
Brilliant. So for next steps, Laura will be checking some of the queries that come up from the Manchester team, and then we'll make sure that we've got packs to all the centres. The contracting will be part of the SOCAT form and will be done between Alder Hey and the individual centres, not directly with Printo. And then if the per patient per visit costs, they'll be invoicing directly via Alder Hey. But if you initially, what we'll do is once we see where we're up to with recruitment and things, we'll sort that out once we've got people open. Do you all think it's still, is it still, I presume as you're here, there's still enthusiasm to be part of the study?
Yeah,
I think we've got
It's
some
very
keen
slow.
patients
Yeah.
more than anything. It just to get all the paperwork and the local approvals.
Yeah.
slow to get
I think-
anything started.
Yeah, I was quite surprised because I was assuming that my whole team is going to be here today, and just to get an email, we are nowhere near that. So
Well,
yeah,
and so Charlotte and Becky, we'll share the slides from today and also the slides from the Printo team, but it'll have contact details directly for Charlotte and Becky as well. Is there anything, Charlotte and Becky, you want to add at this stage?
No, I'm all right. About you, Shaw?
No, that's great.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Well, any other questions from anybody? We're very keen to be able to present at the next Printo AGM and actually have some recruitment for patients, because we've been every few years, the last few years, been presenting, and it's been such a difficult study to get up and running from all sorts of problems. So we're very glad that we've now recruited, and that we've also got ethics for Croatia and for Italy. So hopefully the other sites will come on board internationally. It's been, we've learned a lot, haven't we? I think it's fair to say. Laura, Hannah, and Marco and Elisa have been fantastic in supporting this study. So it's definitely taught me a lot as a researcher. So much appreciated for everyone's input. Great, well, we'll let you all get off for the evening. Thanks everybody, and please email us if there's any queries at all, just drop us an email.
Thanks.
Well, thanks, Claire.
Thanks
Feeling
everyone.
better.
thanks team.
Bye.
Bye.